Desde la perspectiva de uno de los mayores fondos de inversión en infraestructura de transportes, energía y residuos de agua, lo que vamos a hacer ahora mismo es analizar, en este caso, cómo ha influido la crisis sanitaria y la crisis económica en las decisiones de inversión y también en el flujo de capital. Para eso hemos pedido la colaboración y la presencia de Adebayo Ogunlesi, Chairman at Global Infrastructure Partners, que vendrá acompañado, aquí lo tenemos, de don Mario Armero, patrono de la Fundación CEDE.
Buenos días. Good morning to everyone. It's a pleasure to be invited by CEDE, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be able to have an interview, some questions to Adebayo Ogunlesi. You all know Adebayo is the chairman of Global Infrastructure Partners and founder of that firm, a very important firm that manages over 75 billion euros of assets globally. Mr. Ogunlesi is also a lead director of Goldman Sachs, and obviously he has lots of positions, other positions in charity foundations and in educational foundations, whether it's Harvard Business School and some other elements. I will not go. Bayo, thanks for coming in to Córdoba. Thanks for being in Spain, in Andalusia. And I start with some questions, which is my purpose here. Bayo, I mean, I've known you for many years, but just for everyone's interest here, we need to know a little bit more about GIP and a little bit about the fund and what are you doing right now?
Thank you, Mario. Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. Mr. Fine, it's a real honor to be here. When Mr. Fine asks you to do something, you salute and you show up. So, yes, a little bit about GIP. As Mario said, we started GIP, it's now 15 years ago. It's hard to believe it's that long. And what we do is we invest in infrastructure businesses in 4 sectors: in energy, transport, water and waste. We have something like 400 institutional investors. About 40% of them are from North America, 20% from Europe, about 12% from the Middle East and the rest of the world. And we invest in these businesses on a long-term basis. So to give you some examples of the kinds of companies we invest in the transport sector, we are a shareholder in Gatwick Airport, the second largest airport in the UK. We are the controlling shareholder at Edinburgh Airport, the largest airport in Scotland. We own Italo, which is probably the only privately owned high-speed rail business in the world, which operates in Italy. The Port of Melbourne, the largest port in Australia. Those of you who've been following the press would have noticed that we've made an offer, which has been recommended by the directors, to acquire Sydney Airport, which is the largest airport in Australia. In the energy sector, we own LNG plants, we own pipelines, we own gathering facilities. We're a very large investor in renewables. We had a joint venture with ACS to invest in renewables in Spain and in other countries. We are a new shareholder in the new Suez. I was just telling my friend that Akbar was one of the companies that got away. We'd have loved to own Akbar. Fabulous business, but unfortunately, Veolia has decided they'd rather own Akbar. And then, of course, we in the water and waste sector, that is. And so we're also looking at activities in the digital sector. The 2 things that we do that are different is, one, we try and improve the businesses we invest in. So I'll give you the example of Gatwick Airport. When we bought Gatwick, Gatwick was the busiest single runway airport in the world. They were having 50 movements, that's a takeoff or landing, an hour. Today, or at least pre-pandemic, we had increased that to almost 60 movements an hour, which obviously is good for the airlines and it's also good for our customers. The other thing we do is we invest in joint ventures with strategic partners. So, for example, together with Caixa, we're a big shareholder in Naturgy. So Paco Reynolds has done a wonderful job for us as a CEO. We've done joint ventures with Shell, with Total Energies, companies like that. So those are a few examples of what we do at GIP.
Okay. Bayo, since GIP is a significant global infrastructure investor, please tell us, what do you think of the current macroeconomic environment, geopolitical interactions between geopolitics and the economic environment, and how do you see the recovery?
Sure. You know, it's very hard to think that it was only 18 months ago that all of us heard about this virus that came out of China. And, you know, it is remarkable that through concerted actions by sort of 3 or 4 different groups of people. So the first, the governments, you know, governments and central banks around the world were very determined to provide the fiscal and monetary stimulus that was necessary to make, you know, to limit some of the economic damage from the pandemic. Then you had scientists and the pharmaceutical community who in a record period of time have come up with very efficacious vaccines and treatment protocols. Some of you may have just seen that today, that the UK just approved this pill that was developed by Merck, which will, you know, help cure people or at least alleviate the suffering from the pandemic. And then you have to, you know, sort of comment the work that was done by the frontline, the medical workers, the factory workers, the grocery store workers, who made sure that, you know, whilst those of us were working from home, that economies, you know, so continue to progress. So where are we today, right? Look, the economic recovery is certainly underway, whether it's in the US, in Europe, in Asia. Economies are recovering very, very, very rapidly. I think the IMF is projecting that this year the global economy will grow at almost 6%. Next year, it's going to grow at almost 5%. So that's all very good. Most economies are certainly back to the levels they were before the pandemic. But there are warning signs. As we know, this virus is quite evil, okay? And it is capable of having new variations. So the Delta variant being the most recent of them. So we have to be on the guard. And, you know, one of the things that's been very pleasant about being in Spain, I was in the UK just last week. People in Spain are still being cautious. If you went to a gathering like this in London, nobody would be wearing a mask, okay? Even though Spanish rates are better than in the UK. So I think I commend you know, the government, the people of Spain, for continuing to be very cautious. So that's one thing you have to be worried about. Everybody knows about the supply chain disruptions and the impact it's having on economies. The US economy for the third quarter grew at 2%. That's compared to 6% the quarter before that. China is clearly in a slowdown. It's gone from 10% to 5%. So that's an area of concern. Inflation is rearing its head. You know, it's certainly above trend in most developing economies. And I was with the central bank governor just last week, and he was making the case that inflation is temporary. From all of my, you know, CEO friends, and I'm sure some of you are in this room, we don't see any signs that inflation is temporary. I hope the central banks are right, but I think that's a concern. Labor shortage continues to be an issue. In the US, we're starting to see strikes, something we haven't seen for 10 years. I think you may have read that the workers at John Deere have gone on strike. So that's an area of concern. But to me, the one that is the biggest area of concern is whether all of these central banks that have engaged in very extended period of monetary easing can extricate themselves from this in a manner that allows us to recover sort of gradually. I was pleased to see that the Federal Reserve said yesterday that they were going to stop their bond buying program, and that didn't cause any tremors in the markets. Yep. So it's encouraging, but for those of you who are senior managers or CEOs, you will certainly earn your pay in 2022, because I think we're going to be in for very challenging times.
Bayo, we are just in the week of COP26, yep. Glasgow. We are in Spain and in Europe and all around the world going through these increased energy prices together with the disruptions in the supply chain you mentioned. How do you see the move towards net zero, decarbonization, and energy transition?
Sure. Look, I think energy transition is certainly the biggest challenge that we face today. And to put it in context, right? The transition from burning wood to coal, which was the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution, took 200 years. The transition from coal to oil took about 100 years. Now we are talking about decarbonizing from now to 2050. So that's 30 years, okay? So if you think about all of the fundamental re-engineering that we have to do in the global economy, it's a huge challenge, right? You have to go for electrification. So we have to go from, combustion engine cars to electric cars. You have to retrofit homes that have gas, have to go to electricity, right?
Right.
You have to invest in renewable fuels. You have to invest in green energy. You have to invest in decarbonization, in carbon capture. These are all tremendous challenges that the global economy faces. And the good news is we don't really have a choice. We have to do it, if not for ourselves, certainly for our children's generations. And I think at GIP, what we think is it creates a tremendous amount of opportunities, okay? We're very big investors in renewables. We own the largest independent renewable business in Asia. We own the 5th largest renewable business in the US. As I mentioned, we had the joint venture with ACS to do renewables in Europe. Together with Ørsted, the Danish offshore wind company, we built what is today the largest operating wind farm in the world, 1,200 megawatts in the North Sea, serving the UK. So we continue to do things in the green energy space. I think if you put all of our renewable businesses together, with all due respect to our friends at Iberdrola, we would be one of the top 5 renewable companies in the world. We have something like 14 gigawatts of operating assets and another 75 gigawatts of development assets. So that's one area where we're very active. We're looking at all of these new technologies, green hydrogen, we're looking at carbon capture, we're looking at renewable fuels. Mm-hmm. The problem is, today, it's not clear that these things are at the scale where they're economic, okay? Mm-hmm. But we're paying attention, and hopefully we hope to get involved in it.
Okay. You spoke some minutes ago about it, but going forward in this new economy, with these new trends, which we heard today, they are all being accelerated. How do you see the purpose and role of funds? We're all speaking about funds, private equity firms, and more specifically of GIP. I mean, you mentioned partnerships. You have taken a lot of different forms in terms of partnership and acting all around the world. Why should a company partner with GIP?
Well, I think what we bring to companies, and I'm glad we have some of our partners in the room, and you can certainly ask them if what I'm saying is accurate or not. I think we bring a couple of things to our partners. The first is capital, right? I mean, there's always, you never have enough capital to do all of the things that you want to do. But, there's a lot of capital around the world. So if that's all you bring, I don't think you're being a very good partner. I think we bring a fundamental understanding of the industries in which we invest. That's why we're very, very select. We only invest in 4 sectors. We do energy, we do transport, we do water, and we do digital technologies. And so understanding the business and being in a position to put ourselves in our partners' shoes and help them achieve their strategic goals is critical to our success. And we also bring a very long-term perspective with how we look at these things. I've often tell my corporate partners that a partnership, industrial partnership, is like a marriage, okay? And it doesn't matter what you've written in the contract. It's really how do you adapt as the situation changes to create structures that are attractive for you and to attractive for your partner. Now, that's kind of what we focus on.
Very good. Now, Bayo, you have done. Let's go to Spain. We are here with all our Spanish colleagues and Spanish friends in this organization chaired by our friend Isidro Fainé. You have done substantial, relevant investments in Spain, CLH, Saeta Yield, yep, with our friends of ACS, and obviously Naturgy. What's your view as of today of Spain, investing in Spain, professionals, directors, managers in Spain, and what's your view on Naturgy? Because we all understand there's a little expectation around.
Look, what's there not to like about Spain, okay? We are very enthusiastic investors in Spain. In fact, we wish we could do more in Spain. Why do I say that, okay? Spain is probably the most dynamic economy in the EU, okay? When the financial crisis happened, Spain and probably to some extent Portugal, were the two countries that did all of the difficult things they had to do to put their economies in the right shape for future investment. So we like the fact that, the Spanish economy is very dynamic. We like the fact that Spain is very welcoming of international investments. Okay, so we like the fact that we're a welcome partner in Spain. We like the fact that there are very good partners in Spain to partner with. So as we said, we partnered with ACS. We partnered with Caixa, initially Repsol, to be one of the controlling shareholders in Naturgy. So we love the fact that you can have really strong and solid partnerships in Spain. We like the fact that the management community in Spain is excellent. Paco Reynés is a world-class manager. The CEO of Agba, as I mentioned, we would have loved to own Agba. World-class manager. CEO of Telefónica, world-class manager. So you have a terrific management team in Spain. We also like the fact that actually, if you look at the world of infrastructure investors, Spain punches above its weight, is a term that Americans use, right? So, Iberdrola, world-class operator. Ferrovial, world-class operator. ACS, world-class operator. Telefonica, world-class operator. You just look around and say, why are all of these Spanish companies so successful, not just in Spain or in Portugal, but in, in the UK, in Italy, wherever so we like that. And so when you want to partner with companies, it helps to have companies who think about the world, look at the world, recognize the role of the private sector in infrastructure. And so, as I said, what's not to like about Spain? And plus, the people are wonderful, the weather is great. I mean, what's not to like?
And the better lawyer in Europe.
And the best law firm. Yeah, I mean, I was thanking him for keeping us out of trouble in Spain. So thank you.
Very good. So,
actually, I should also mention. I forgot this. One of GIP's best banking relationships, Santander. What's not to like about Spain?
Okay, very good. So, Bayo, we are perfectly on time, even we are saving time for the organization. And I have a final question, which is a little bit more personal. Okay, I mean, pandemia has changed some of our values.
Indeed.
We're gonna hear now the Professor Rojas Estapé. Now, in your case, has pandemia changed the fact you're a big supporter of Barcelona Football Club? Tell the truth here.
No, I have to give you some history here, okay? So, I grew up in Nigeria, and deep down inside, my #1 football club, Tottenham Hotspur, okay? And when we started investing in Spain, I had to, pick a Spanish team to support. And being very misguided, I initially was a Barcelona supporter. But I was shown the error of my ways when we did our investment with ACS. And I was, I don't know whether I was fortunate or unfortunate enough to attend a match at Barcelona Stadium between Real Madrid and Barcelona, sitting next to Mr. Fiorentino, okay? And I think Barca scored first, and I was about to jump up, and then I remembered who I was sitting next to. And by the way, we had not actually concluded the arrangement at the time, so I was on probation, okay? So I sat down. Fortunately, Sergio Ramos equalized, I think, in the 92nd minute. And so I jumped up with everybody else, and I clapped. And Mr. Fiorentino was convinced that I was a Real Madrid supporter, and he agreed to sign the transaction. Angel is in the room. He can vouch for the fact that that's what happened. Since then, I've now that, Barca has fallen on the hard times, it's much easier to be a Madrileno. And if you're a Madrileno, then you have Barcelona, you have Atletico Madrid. So, you know, there's lots of possibilities for you.
Well, I really thank you for that. and this is it. Thanks a lot. Once again, Bayo, thanks on behalf of the organization, if I may, I mean the board of CEDE. Thanks for coming from the States, for having this meeting, and be with all of us. It's really quite an honor, and thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.